Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be profiling my current Splight deck list. This is obviously going to be a deck that will feature a lot in the upcoming meta once Power of the Elements is released. It's a deck that I've been testing purely because I'm just trying to work out if it's something that I would like to, I guess, invest in. I don't often go for like a meta strategy right out the gate, but it does, obviously, it's very strong, and it's kind of something that's interesting to me. So I've been just testing it out, playing around with different ratios of things, and I'm really happy with the list that I've got so far, and just thought I'd show it off, and yeah, just, I guess, give my perspective of the deck. So the main deck is 40 cards. This deck is very easy to keep at 40 with lots of space for other stuff. Currently, I am playing 3 of the Splight Blue. So all the Splites can summon themselves if you control a level or rank 2 monster. And then they have effects, well, the Blue and the Jet have effects on summon. Blue adds a Splight monster and Jet adds a Splight spell trap, which are very good. So we're playing 3 of each. They come along side by side. So if you summon Blue, you're usually searching Jet. If you've summoned a Jet first to search for the spell trap that just summons a Splight for free, you're usually summoning Blue. So these two kind of go hand in hand with the spell. I'm playing 1 red and 1 carrot as well. So these are the Splight monsters I'm playing. I know some people are playing, for example, 2 of the red. The red's definitely quite useful. You can summon it very early in a lot of combos, and it's a monster negate on field by attributing one other level or rank or link 2 monster. But I find as well, often with the ratios that I've got here of the 3 and the 3, and then obviously the Splight starter, whenever you see more, like, so for example, if you see Blue, Jet, or Blue or like 2 of the 3 good ones, red's usually coming out very quickly in your combos as well. So having 1 seems to be fine at the moment. Don't know if I'd make that 2 at any point, but we're then playing 3 of the Splight starter. This card is just insane. It's just special summon a Splight from the deck, and if you do lose life points equal to its original attack, and that does lock you into level rank link 2 monsters. This card's really broken. It's one of your best starter plays, because for example, you'd go Splight, summon Blue, starter summon Blue, Blue search Jet, Jet can then search Smashes, or if you've already started with Jet, search starter, search Blue, search red. But one monster kind of gets you to 2 or 3 other cards. Splight Smashes is the last Splight card I'm playing. You have to banish a Springens, Therion, or Splight card from hand or graveyard, then activate one of the effects. And the only effect that's relevant on this card is banish both a level rank link 2 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. So it's an out to Mystic Mine. And when you already see Jet or starter, for example, then you're searching Smashes, and it's just an extra disruption for nothing, essentially. So these are the Splight cards I'm playing. They're really strong. I didn't explain about Carrot. Carrot is the opposite of red. It negates a spell trap. So useful as well. Obviously, you could negate an imperm on your turn, for example, or you can leave it on board going into your opponent's turn to negate a spell trap. But yeah, they're the Splight monsters. They are really strong. They all summon themselves for free. But at the moment, I haven't really felt the need to play more than this, because you can access these very freely if the rest of your engines are doing what they're meant to do. So then the rest of the other level 2 engine we're playing, we've got 2 engines. I'm currently on Nimble Beaver. I'm going back and forth between Beaver and Diva. They both essentially do the same thing. Big difference is that Diva is a tuner, whereas Beaver can summon a Nimble from a graveyard, which is a big difference. I like the utility of summoning from graveyard. The tuner thing at the moment doesn't come up, because I'm not playing Halka Firebrax. I know in the OCG they play Halka Firebrax to bounce back hand traps, for example, or they summon, they've got different interactions than what we have. So the tuner thing doesn't really matter too much. Being able to bounce back an Ash or an Effect Veiler is cool, but not necessary. I kind of find the extra deck to be fairly tight, I suppose. It depends. So either or not, I'm playing Nimble Beaver. It's does what it needs to do really well. Yeah, I'm really happy with Beaver. In the future, if, for example, you wanted to play a card like Herald of the Arclight, which you definitely could, as something like an out to droplets, then that's when Diva I think would be good. And there's other cards in the deck that I'm playing where, you know, Diva might be the better option, but for now it's Beaver. I'm chopping and changing between the two very regularly. Swap Frog, 1 Ronin, and 1 Dupe Frog. This engine in this deck is just insane. It does everything. It summons Toad, and yeah, it's just great. So these are really good. And then obviously Swap and Beaver being, you know, the water interaction, so you can pitch it for Swap Frog if you need to. These are really strong. Going into then just the other spells we're playing, this card is absolutely insane. E-Telly is so good in this deck because it allows you to play the game without necessarily committing to a monster that activates an effect on summon. So, for example, losing a level 2 off the board is really bad, especially if, you know, let's say your opening play is normal summon Nimble Beaver. If it gets ashed, it's not the end of the world. Imperm Veiler, all those things aren't the end of the world because you're still leaving the level 2 on board, meaning your Splights can also summon themselves if you have them in hand. But Psyframe Gamma is a huge crux. If Gamma is used on Beaver, then or on Diva or on Swap Frog, and you lose the monster, then that's where it's a problem, and you've now lost the level 2 off the field, and you need one of these kind of cards to be able to continue playing. So E-Telly is awesome. I'm playing Psyframe Gear Gamma, if you know, the E-Telly is not obvious, but E-Telly as another starter card, just to put a level 2 on the board with no effects, so you can't, you know, just put a level 2 on the board where you can start playing and activating your Splight effects. Really strong. So often, you know, I might be, for example, hold the Beaver or hold Swap Frog, for example, use E-Telly, summon a Splight first, and then, you know, once I know my plays are a bit more insulated, then I can go into something like Beaver. So E-Telly is really good. I'm jumping back and forth between 2 and 3. The only card I can summon at the moment is Gamma. Post-siding, I can summon Ogre. Ghost Ogre is going to be pretty decent in the upcoming format as a counter to Splight specifically. I'm playing 2 E-Telly. I have definitely had 3 in the list, and I can show you where the third, because the next few cards is where you will have a spot, but I'm currently playing 2. I'll put the rest of the cards out because this is where my ratios are kind of being tweaked. I'm then also playing 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 2 Crossout Designator, and 1 Called by the Grave. So all of these ratios here is where I am kind of juggling things. Specifically here in the tactic spot, so at once upon a time this would have been the 3rd Crossout and the 3rd E-Telly. Once upon a time it was a 3rd Crossout and 1 Dark Ruler no more, just as a Crossout target. Dark Ruler is going to be something really strong, again, also against Splight. It does, you know, help to break the board really, really well, where hand traps maybe aren't as effective. But then I also thought that Tactics is just such a good card too. I definitely wanted to have at least 1 in the deck, also mainly as a crossout target as well. So this is the ratio I've kind of landed on, so 2, 2, 2, and the 1 called by. So far, happy with it. It means I've got a Tactics in deck as a crossout target, and, you know, Tactics is still really good if your opponent does have the hand traps. So this has been working really fine, and in this deck you do have space for it. I don't own Prosperities, and currently I'm not playing Prosperity, so Tactics is kind of that next best thing, I suppose. Then the rest of the deck is the hand traps. I'm currently only playing 12. You'll obviously see a lot of Splight lists, maybe not maining Crossout Designator, or the Tactics, for example, maybe playing the 15 hand traps, which is, you know, definitely something you can do. I like kind of having that insulation. That 12's fine for me. So I'm playing 3 Ash, just 12, just good hand traps, 3 Veiler, the 3 Gamma, of course, the driver, and just the 3 Impermanence as my hand trap lineup. So just, you know, 12 pretty standard hand traps. Seeing these alongside combo is fantastic, or seeing, you know, cross out Tactics with 1 hand trap and combo is good too. But really happy with the lineup at the moment. So that's 40 cards in the main deck. Like I said, the only kind of changes I'm really playing with is just between Diva and Beaver, and the E-Telly Tactics crossout ratios. Just, I guess, testing is going to help decide, and depending on what the meta looks like too. I mean, we don't know We know that obviously Splight's good in the OCG, but we don't know what it's necessarily going to be like in the TCG. Still, I think it's going to be a good deck for sure. You're not searching Maxi in the TCG, obviously, which is where a lot of its power comes from, but yeah. Then the extra deck, playing 2 Elf. Elf's really good. Elf is a quick effect during the main phase to revive a level 2 monster, but if your opponent controls a monster, you can target a rank or link 2 monster. So this is how we reuse Totally Awesome. So in our opponent's turn, we can get 2 activations of Toad's Negate by using it first and then bringing it back with Elf, using it again. It's really good. It's also good during your own turn to help extend. It's how you are going to get to your end board as well. The extra deck is also something that I'm kind of tweaking, obviously, as we go. Currently, I'm on Underworld Goddess, Avramax, IP, Dark, Phoenix, Cerberus, and Almirage as the link monsters. These are really good. Almirage is really good for making Swap Frog a 1-card combo. Phoenix and Cerberus are kind of like those utility monsters that help you deal with threats of your opponent. But then sometimes this deck can struggle to get over really big monsters that might have protection, for example. So that's where I'm currently playing Underworld, just as something that you can freely get rid of opponent's monsters. I was testing against a Punk Therion deck, and I couldn't out Psychic and Punisher. So having something like Underworld Goddess would be a useful thing. So that's why I'm currently playing it. But yeah, so I'm still currently playing with some of the extra deck spaces. It's a little bit more link heavy, I think, than maybe some. I know some decks are playing a lot more Xyz monsters, but I'm currently on the link monsters. Then for the Xyz monsters, playing 2 of the Gigantic Splight. This card is just ridiculous. I don't know why it locks your opponent out of summoning monsters except level rank link 2 monsters. It's just insane. The fact that it locks your opponent out too means you as soon as this card's activated and resolved its effect, you can't get Nibiru, you can't get Gamad because they have to summon Driver and they can't. It's silly that it's there, but you just get to summon any level 2 monster for free. This card doesn't detach its cost though. It needs to be on the field to resolve its effect. So Ogre on Gigantic Splight is pretty good. It removes it from the field, meaning it can't then finish resolving its effect to summon. So that's where something like Ogre is really good. But often, depending on the hand, you're often able to set up the Splight red before summoning Gigantic Splight, and that kind of helps to secure Gigantic Splight's negation, summon from deck. Playing 1 Toad, you can play 2, I suppose, but I find sometimes that I'm bouncing this off its second effect. The second time I get to use it, so the first time I'll add back Nimble Beaver or I'll add back Swap Frog, and then the second time, depending on the board state, depending on what I'm up against, I can actually bounce back to Totally Awesome and reuse it on my turn 3 to just really solidify game and win that way. And the last 3 monsters, playing a Zeus package, because again we're playing Xyz monsters, so it's fairly free. Centauria down into Zeus. Just be mindful, of course, that if you've used Gigantic Splight or Splight Starter if you're going second, for example, you're not going to be able to get into Zeus. So it's just it's when you're not using those cards, but you can break the boards fairly easily if you're playing something like Dark Ruler into Zeus is really strong. So yeah, really good. And then lastly, currently my side deck is just obviously needs testing, and it's going to be more dependent on what the meta looks like when this deck does come out. But currently on 3 Lava Golem with E-Telly and Splight Starter. You often will go through a combo without normal summoning, so Lava Golem is very free. Currently playing 2 Ghost Ogre. Obviously we can access it through E-Telly as well, so you've got a few more copies. Then 3 Dark Ruler, really helpful in the mirror match. Cosmic Cyclone and Red Reboot for back row decks, and then just Judgment for going first siding. But that's the side deck, and that's the deck profile. It's going to be obviously a very strong deck when it comes out, and I'm really enjoying testing it. But otherwise, thank you for watching. So I did sign off the video, but forgot to do some test hands. So we'll do a couple of test hands just so you can kind of see what we're trying to achieve with the deck. let's see what we have for our first one. We've got Ash, Blue, Called By, Starter, and Ronin Totem. So obviously having Called By is great. We know that our play is going to be fairly insulated going into what we need to do. So in this one, having the Ronin Totem is unfortunate, but really not the end of the world. So what we'll do is we'll start off with Splight Starter. We'll use Starter to summon Jet, and then we'll use Jet to search for Splat Smashes. Now you could search Starter again just as follow-up for the next turn, or as in, it's Starters is also a disruption during your opponent's turn if you summon Red or Carrot. But we'll do it this way. We'll have Smashes as a disruption because this is something we're going to put in the back row. So it does kind of help insulate, I guess, against Dark Ruler. Just means it's not going to hurt as much. But now we're pretty free to summon Blue. Blue will search Red, and we'll summon Red. So here we are now free to overlay into Gigantic Splight. Because we have Call By, we're not really fearing Ghost Ogre now at this point. Red has to tribute one other Link rank 2 monster or level 2 monster. I guess if we didn't have Call By, one play would have been to normal the Ronin Totem, just so that Red had something to negate, to tribute, if we were worried about Splight getting negated. But having the Call By just means that we're not as worried or concerned, because otherwise Red would have to tribute Splight and then its effect won't resolve, so that's not good. So we'll use its effect, and we'll summon out Swap Frog. So because we had access to the Splight engine initially, but not the frogs, we're going to summon the Swap Frog. And then it goes the other way around. So if we start with the frogs, our goal is to summon the Splites. Usually I'm just always going for the frogs. So obviously if we have access to no Splight, no frogs, and let's say our only opening play was Nimble Beaver and it resolves, we're going to go for the frogs because we still get to end on the full board. Not the full board, but we still get to end on something. So we'll get our Swap Frog. We'll use our Swap Frog to dump Swap Frog. And then we can bounce the Swap Frog because we need to get the Ronin Totem out of our hand, and we'll pitch it to summon Swap Frog. And we can use Swap Frog to summon, to dump another Swap Frog here. It just means that we get more uses, obviously, out of that Ronin Totem. Now we can link off and go for Elf. Now we do have all three of our Swap Frogs in the graveyard, so we will revive back Swap Frog. We will reviving off Elf, and we'll use Ronin Totem, banishing the Swap Frog to summon out. And we can overlay for Totally Awesome. Now we're opting for this as our end board here. Obviously we can set Smashes, set Called By, leaving the Ash Blossom in our hand just as another. So we've got kind of 3 layers of disruption with our back row, the hand and the field. And then when we get into our opponent's turn during the standby phase, we will obviously detach from the Totally Awesome, and we're going to summon out Dupe Frog. And this just ensures that our opponent just can't summon a big dude and go into the battle phase and run over our guys. Splight Elf's good because it also gives monsters it points to targeting protection, which is nice. So this end board here, we've got quite a number of disruptions. We've got the Toad first, and the Toad, this is something that we're going to try and shotgun quite early on because Elf can bring it back if our opponent controls a monster. So once our opponent has started committing to some plays, Toad makes 1 disruption, and then we can add back the Swap Frog, for example. When they control a monster, we can Elf back the Toad, which makes another disruption. And then depending on the board state, depending on what deck we're playing, we can choose to bounce back the Toad. You could add back the Ronin Totem, you could add back the Swap Frog. For this one, we'll bounce back the Toad, for example. We have Red. Red can tribute Dupe Frog to negate a monster effect. Splight Smashes can banish one of the Therians from graveyard, one of the Splights from grave, and then also banish a level 2, rank 2, link 2 monster we control and one character opponent controls as another disruption. Obviously, we've got the Call by the Grave and the Ash. And we're just trying to, I guess, if we can keep the Splight Elf alive, that's really great. If not, we can still keep playing the game then on the following turn with Swap Frog again. So that's test hand number 1. You can see how, a few cards became quite a lot of disruptions. We'll do another one. But pretty much any level 2 monsters will at least result in the kind of the minimum being Elf with Toad and getting the 2 uses out of the Toad. If you have even just a little bit more extension, you can get IP Masquerena. That hand then specifically, we could have also ended, well, not also ended, but we could have swapped out red for IP if we wanted to. And then we can IP into Goddess or into Avramax, for example, or into one of the Nightmares if that's necessary. But we chose to keep red then on the field. If we'd linked off the Ronin Toad early, we could have used a second use of Ronin Toad to bring it back out to make the Toad after making IP. So we could have also ended on IP instead of red, but that's what we chose to do. Okay, so this does look very similar to the previous hand. It's going to be more or less the same kind of thing. Again, we're very insulated, having insulation from plays. We've got the double hand traps for going second. So if we were going second, this kind of hand's great. We've got 2 cards that contribute to combo. We've got 2 hand traps. We've got insulation. So this is a good looking hand. Really happy with this. This would just be starter into blue. Blue effect, we'll search red. Because we've already got access to Jet. And summon red. And then we'll also summon Jet. And this time we'll use Jet to search starter. Because, for example, in that last hand, we didn't really have follow-up outside of the totally being able to summon back Swap Frog, and if Elf stayed on the board, obviously. So we'll hang on to starter because starter can also be used as a disruption going into our opponent's turn. Obviously we can set it, it's a quick play, and we can bring out Carrot from deck, which becomes a spell trap negate if we want to. So we'll go for starter here just as another disruption, but as well it's also follow-up for the following turn. We'll overlay for Splight, and again, not really fearing the hand traps. I know we're not maining Ogre, but we've got cross out for everything else. We'll detach, don't have access to the frogs, so we'll summon Swap. Swap, we'll dump Ronin Toad in. Then we will link, we'll link to Elf. Elf can bring back Swap. Swap can dump Swap. Now in this particular hand, no, it's going to amount to the same thing. Again, we've got that decision whether we want to keep the red on the field or make a IP Masquerena. So we can bounce a swap, normal swap, because we haven't normal summoned yet, and dump an additional Swap Frog. But again, doing this, we can Ronin, banish, swap, summon out. We can make IP here if we want to. And then we can do it again. We can banish, swap, summon Ronin, and then overlay for Toad. So this is the other, this is the other kind of end board that we often will have, which is lovely. And we then have, 3 cards to set, plus the Gamma in hand if, everything starts going really badly and we've lost everything. And then going into our opponent's turn, same thing. We can detach, we can summon out the Dupe Frog, just gives us a little bit more battle protection. And then, from here, again, we've got lots of disruptions going on our opponent's turn. We've got the double Toad, we've got IP, which can go into the Underworld Goddess or into Avramax. Avramax, obviously, itself doesn't prove to be a disruption, but it is just really hard to out card if you've used IP to summon it. And then we've got the crossout, we've got the imperm Splight starter. I mean, if this was the mirror match, crossout is insane, and starter can summon out the follow-up. So we could, starter for blue search jet, and then have jet as follow-up, or we can just skip blue, summon jet, search another starter as follow-up, or we can summon carrot and have another spell trap negation if we want to. So that's just another example test hand. We'll just do a couple of really quick fire ones, not play them out, just look at the opening 5 and just consider how the hand is made up. We're kind of looking for 2 level 2 monsters, some hand traps, and one of those protective cards would be ideal. Jet, dupe, gamma, driver, and blue. So we've got plenty of plays here. This one's probably going to be normal summon dupe. These are normal summon level, but you obviously don't get access to their effects. So if we normal summon the dupe, that just puts level 2 on board. It can't get gammed because it's not activating any effects, and then we're free to summon these out and keep going. The one hand trap in gamma, it's a good hand trap. Having driver alongside it is never convenient, but it is what it is. Okay, the next one, blue, tactics, E-telly, gamma, and carrot. So again, this hand is really good. We've got E-telly, which then brings out gamma. We've got blue to continue. We've got carrot as well as a spell trap. And these are not 2 hand traps as such, but a hand trap and tactics. Good going first or second, both of them, so not bad. And then tactics also gives us just that little bit of insurance if our opponent does play into it. Carrot again, swap frog, beaver, called by Veiler. So going second, only the 1 hand trap, but we've got well and truly, we're playing the game definitely with beaver and swap frog, and then carrot is just another extender, which also doubles as spell trap negation. Which is it's kind of cool how they're extenders generally, but then they have these really great negation effects alongside. Okay, that one. Swap, cross out, tactics, red, and jet. Okay, this is awesome. Like going first, this is fantastic. We know that we're going to be pretty much playing the game freely. Going second would be a little bit more of an uphill battle. We're kind of relying on tactics to put in some work, depending on, I guess, what we're up against. And we'll do one last test hand. Swap frog, cross out, ash, beaver, and gamma. Okay, so again, this is a lovely hand. We've got the 2 hand traps, we've got combo, we've got protection. It's awesome. So that's the deck. I'm really enjoying testing it. I'm awaiting to see how much it's going to hurt my wallet, but otherwise I hope you enjoyed that deck profile, and see you in the next one.